You're going to grab a big handful. I'll try to keep my hands down. Okay? And then I'm going to shape it so that it's almost like a coil that's started already. You can't roll a coil on your newspaper. You have to roll it on a dry desk. It's like making worms and snakes with Play-Doh, except the clay is a little harder to cooperate. And it wants to go flat. I'm pushing pretty hard against the table, like really hard against the table, okay? You're not just going to do this and it's going to work. You have to force it against the table to be round. If you don't, it's going to flip-flop and get flat. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, what we did last period is the empty desks where people were absent. We designated those as the coil desks so everybody doesn't have to clean every desk. Does that make sense? Like when you're ready to do a coil, walk over to one of the dry desks and do it on there so we only have to clean 2 or 3 desks instead of 20 some. Your coil should be as thick as your index finger. Not any smaller ever. Okay? So in a minute, you're going to practice coils. Now for a slab pot, you can't do that on newspaper either. So you're going to put your bag like a blanket on your desk. And when you do a slab pot, remember how yesterday when I said to wedge it and not make it a pancake? Well, today, it's okay if it's a slab pot. Now the problem last period when I showed the kids how to do this is they wedged it and threw it so much it was too thin. You want it to be thick. Then you're going to use your slab sticks on either side. Do you remember why we put the sticks on either side?
So it doesn't get too thin. Yeah.
So it's the same all the way across. Now, what most of you do that you shouldn't do is you stop halfway. But you can't. Once you start, you have to go all the way across. Because if you don't, you'll get big waves in your clay. And you're going to roll it until it's even with your slab sticks. Especially in the middle. The middle is the part that tends to stay the fattest. Then all you do is pull your plastic and it peels right off. But if you do it on newspaper, it is going to stick to the newspaper and the newspaper is going to get all mixed up in it, and you don't want that. Okay? Now, if I want to start a coil pot, I have peanut butter jar lids, and what I do is I don't push it all the way down, because if you do, the clay gets stuck in here and you have to dig it out with your fingers. I make an imprint, and then I use my paper clip and I cut it out. So this is the base of my coil pot. Okay? At this point, you would put it on your pokey to work on it. But since this is just a demonstration, I'm not. Now, if I want to put my coil on, what do I have to do? Do you remember? Destiny?
Yeah. Take your
Mike?
You put your finger and slip. Put it on the...
That's correct, but I do something else first. Dylan?
You have to use the fork and you have to scrape it, otherwise it'll just, whenever you're firing it, it'll just fall off.
So what do I call it when I put marks in it with a fork? It's called scoring. Bless you. So I'm going to put hash marks, and not only on the base, but I'm going to put it on the coil. So I have marks on the coil and I have marks on the base. Then I use my slip, which is this really gooey, nasty stuff in this bowl, liquid clay. And I'm going to put the slip on. And then I'm going to lay the scratch marks of the coil against the scratch marks on the base. Now, keep losing my paper clip.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh, thank you. Do you guys know what the word miter means? Have any of you ever used a miter box when you've been helping your dad or your granddad? You know how a picture frame in the corner, it's cut diagonally so the wood fits just right? That's a mitered corner. You want to miter your coils. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut my coil at a slant. And then I'm going to bring the other coil around. And I'm going to cut it at an opposite slant so that when they meet, I can weld them together and it doesn't make a great big hump in the middle of the coil. Does that make sense? And usually when I make a coil pot, if I connect them here, then the next coil I'll connect on this side and keep it even and take turns. Excuse me. Now, my first coil is on, but I need to weld it. And you can use the loop of your paper clip or you can use your fingers, and you're going to weld the base to the coil. And that way, when we fire it, there's no way it's going to come apart. So I have my coil and my base. Before you put another coil on, it has to be scored and slipped. And if you pinch your coil too much so that there's not enough to lay another one on, sometimes I use my rolling pin and I gently roll over top of the coil so that the other one will lay on there better. Okay, your job today for the next 20 minutes or so is to practice rolling really round coils about the size of your index finger and to start a coil pot. Cut a base out of a slab and attach a coil on and see how it works for you. Okay? Thank you. Get ready. I'm going to come through and help.